The decision was the result of a moment of vulnerability. I am alone in my flat, which is inadequately illuminated. The silence was intolerable. My thoughts were burdened by the disappointment of yet another failed relationship. I did not pursue either affection or connection. However, it is a temporary respite that serves to alleviate the isolation. I allowed myself to hesitate as I held my phone. My forefinger was positioned above the screen. This was an experience that was entirely new to me. Similar to crossing an imperceptible boundary. If they were cognizant, my friends would persistently remind me. Nevertheless, this evening I was uninterested. This evening, my intention was to forget. I proceeded through the available alternatives without engaging in excessive analysis. It appeared to be transactional and distant. Exactly what I had hoped for. Subtly, I selected an individual, without conducting a thorough examination of the specifics, enough to complete the preparations. After a series of text messages, the arrangement was successfully completed. Additionally, an individual will arrive at my residence within the hour. When the contact is put to an end, I was struck by an unusual combination of contrition and anticipation. What did I engage in? I am not affected by this. Nevertheless, the idea of withdrawing was equally demeaning. I rationalized it, convincing myself that it was harmless. In the broader context, a single night would be inconsequential. As I completed my preparations, the minutes passed at a leisurely pace. I was dubious as to the cause of my anxiety. The objective was to simplify this. I participated in unnecessary household chores, circling the chamber. Additionally, I examined my reflection in the mirror. The volume of effort I dedicated to a matter that was intended to be strictly transactional was absurd. My contemplation was interrupted by a knock on the door. As I approached it, my chest contracted. Deeply inhaling, I opened the door, anticipating the presence of an unfamiliar individual. In contrast, my heart plunged. I was rendered immobile. I immediately recognized the individual standing there, despite the fact that my mind required a moment to fully understand. She was the individual in question, my closest friend's younger sibling, a name I have encountered in formal discourse on numerous occasions, a face that I have encountered in familial photographs on my friend's social media platform. She was equally astounded as I was. Her eyes widened as she came to terms with the situation. For what appeared to be an eternity, neither of us spoke. Incredulity permeated the air between us. Discomfort. Additionally, an element that is indefinable. She initiated the process. However, her tone fluctuated. What is the reason for your presence here? Ultimately, I did manage to inquire. My tone was more incisive than I had intended. She experienced a moment of uncertainty. Before establishing eye contact with me, I briefly glanced downward. I was not aware that it was you. The realization struck me with an immense force. She was unable to identify my name in the correspondence. Additionally, I failed to identify hers. This occurrence was an accident. However, it is a mere coincidence. Its mortifying nature was not diminished by this. My mind was inundated with a plethora of ideas. How did she arrive at this juncture? Participating in this activity? Did her brother know? Should I reach out to him? Nevertheless, the expression on her countenance, a combination of vulnerability and defiance, stopped me. This was not the time for accusations or judgments. I moved aside to allow her to enter. However, I was dubious as to why she entered with trepidation. Her movements instructed. As if prepping for an interrogation, I closed the door behind her. The severity of the situation that is affecting us both. Unarticulated inquiries permeated the atmosphere. Additionally, instantaneously, we were both uncertain about how to begin. I was compelled to look at her, attempting to reconcile the individual I believed I knew with the one who is present before me. She was dressed in a manner that I had never seen before. However, it is more sophisticated and self-assured. Her composed exterior was undermined by a vulnerability in her eyes. She reiterated, "I was not aware it was you." Although still suffused with apprehension, her tone was more resolute. "I was also oblivious that it was you," I replied. However, it appeared that the comments were not genuine. It was clear that neither of us had anticipated this. However, this did not diminish its peculiarity. She concealed her face and folded her arms. "What are the subsequent actions? Will you notify him? Whom should be identified?" I inquired. In spite of her complete comprehension of her intentions, she declared, looking upwards at me, "My brother." Her demeanor was a blend of defiance and desperation. "Will you notify him of this?" I let out a loud sigh, brushing my hair with my fingertips. "I am apprehensive. I have not yet had the opportunity to fully understand the implications of this." Her mandible was clenched. "It is not his responsibility. This is inapplicable, regardless of your perspective. I have no desire to cause anyone any injury. I aspire to have faith in her, despite the fact that the circumstances appear to be too complex to be explained in a few words." "What circumstances brought you to this location?" I inquired, uncertainly gesturing towards the area. "The circumstances. Additionally, all of this was illogical." She hesitated. "Additionally, instantaneously." I was under the impression that she would maintain her silence. She exhaled profoundly and declared, "Complicated. I required the funding. This concludes the information you require. Is he cognizant?" I approached my inquiry with caution. I am striving to avoid undue pressure while pursuing clarity. She replied abruptly, "No." Her demeanor was sharp. "He will continue to be oblivious. You will not reveal this information to him." I postponed my reply, encouraging her to proceed. Her demeanor is becoming increasingly severe. She was insistent that I make a commitment. The tone she used was authoritative. "You will maintain your silence." Her statements presented me with an obstacle. However, there was an inherent vulnerability that I was unable to ignore. She did not merely ask that I preserve her confidentiality. She begged me to protect her, to preserve the image of herself that her siblings still held in high regard. "I will not reveal this information to him." I arrived at a conclusion. The remarks were oppressive. I was uncertain about the bearing, similar to a burden. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Nevertheless, the tension between us persisted. We maintained our silence. We are both uncertain about the next steps to take. There was no manual available for situations like this. There is no simple approach to navigating the confusion we have encountered. I endeavored to ask additional questions in order to obtain further information. Nevertheless, she had already spoken more than she intended, as evidenced by the expression in her gaze. The silence between us was unnecessarily prolonged. Each of us is eagerly anticipating the other's initiation of conversation. I observed the turmoil that was reflected in her gaze. She was contending with a torrent of suppressed emotions. I was apprehensive about how to begin. However, I was unable to allow it to conclude in this fashion, an uncomfortable impasse that lacks any viable resolutions. I have now begun to speak in a more subdued manner. At this time, I am refraining from rendering an assessment of your character. I am concerned about this situation. It is preposterous. What is the justification for your actions? Her demeanor underwent a transformation. Her visage was briefly characterized by a rageful expression. What is the importance of this? You have achieved your objective. Is this accurate? I was taken aback by the bitterness in her voice. Nevertheless, I declined to capitulate. I am not affected by this. My friend's sibling is you. I failed to anticipate. She responded, "Do you think I foresaw this?" Disrupting me. "Do you believe that I awoke one day and determined that this is the existence I want?" My experiences are unknown to you." At the conclusion, her voice experienced a minor tremor. I acknowledged that this was not solely an act of defiance. It was excruciating. She did not intend to justify her actions. She was making an effort to persevere. "Afterward, kindly notify me." I made a gentle request. "Please help me to understand." She demonstrated reluctance. Her arms were securely crossed over her torso. For a limited period, I was under the impression that she would continue to be indifferent. She continued to inhale deeply and diverted her gaze. She recognized that the financial aspect is not the only consideration. Her voice was barely discernible. "It pertains to management. In relation to the pursuit of an objective for my own benefit. In accordance with my personal circumstances. No matter what others anticipate of me." I was not prepared for the extent to which her comments affected me. This was not a matter of impulsivity or insurrection. It was related to the reclamation of an item she believed she had lost. I endeavored to convey a sentiment that would be comforting, that which would facilitate this for both of us. Nevertheless, nothing occurred to me. "What is his current status?" I approached my inquiry with caution. In reference to her sibling, "If he were cognizant, what do you anticipate would be his reaction?" She laughed in a sardonic manner. She shook her head. "He would be unable to understand. He would assess me in the same way as others. He has consistently exhibited the qualities of an exemplary individual. The individual who achieves success in all areas. I am merely the failure. The individual is incapable of organizing her existence." Her statements were replete with unbridled anger, accompanied by a profound sense of grief. Afterward, I realized the full extent of her responsibilities, the degree to which she concealed herself from those in her immediate vicinity. "There is no requirement for you to provide any demonstrations to anyone," I declared. The sincerity of my voice even astounded me. "You are more than the imperfections you identify within yourself." At that moment, she fixed her gaze on me. For the first time, her eyes began to soften. "Do you think it is that simple?" I acknowledged my ignorance. "Nevertheless, I am certain that this does not accurately reflect your authentic personality. It is unnecessary for you to persist with this course of action." She maintained her gaze upon me for an extended period, as if contemplating the accuracy of my assertion. In conclusion, she declared, "Potentially. Nevertheless, ceasing is a complex undertaking." I recognized that this was her reality and her struggle. Her experience was not affected by my reflections on the subject. I was compelled to make an effort to be forthright, despite its failure to resolve the situation. For what seemed like an eternity, we remained in that location, captured by an unusual circumstance, subtle comprehension. However, neither of us was cognizant of the subsequent course of action. Although the oppressive weight of the preceding conversation persisted between us, neither of us was able to easily disengage from this situation. However, a clear course of action was also lacking. She initiated the dialogue. Her timbre has since become more subdued. "I am not in need of your sympathy. You are cognizant. I have made my decisions and am willing to endure the repercussions. I do not desire a savior. I am not making an effort to rescue you," I replied. "Nevertheless, this is the case. This is negligible. It is not sufficient to simply pretend that it did not happen. I am unable to pretend that it did not happen." Our eyes were fixed. Additionally, for the first time, fury and defensiveness were absent. Her appearance was notably more youthful than her actual age due to a subtle weakness. "What do you need from me? What measures will you implement?" The question persisted. Additionally, I was unable to provide a response. What options are available to me? It appeared to be treachery to disclose the information to her sibling. Additionally, the continued silence appeared to indicate cooperation. However, she was entitled to her autonomy and seclusion. As well, I was unable to dispel the idea that I owed my friend anything. I will refrain from disclosing this information to him, I declared with unwavering conviction. I maintained a consistent demeanor. Nevertheless, I am also not in accord with this. Your worth surpasses this. Regardless of your perspective. She emitted a caustic chuckle. You convey that as though it is uncomplicated to modify it. It is as though I could effortlessly resolve all issues with a single snap of my fingertips. I recognize that it is a difficult task. Nevertheless, persisting in this, it will not result in any advancement. It is unnecessary for you to perform this independently. You are not required to bear all of the responsibilities alone. She averted her gaze. Her mandible was clenching. You are under the impression that I have not made an effort. Whenever I am under the impression that I am making progress, my progress is impeded by an obstacle. This is solely a matter of survival. That concludes the matter. I neared, decreasing the amplitude of my voice. Your sole objective is not survival. You are entitled to more. Nevertheless, you are the sole individual who can ascertain whether it is adequate. Little sags were observed in her shoulders. She is losing her resolve. Immediately, she appeared to be diminutive, extremely delicate. I acknowledged the significant courage she exhibited in her determination to persist, despite the fact that her decisions do not correspond with my own convictions. What is the subsequent course of action? She inquired. Her voice was barely audible. I took a moment to contemplate my response. You are responsible for making the decision. I will not compel you to take action. However, I urge you to contemplate our conversation. You possess a greater potential than this. You need only have faith in it. She slowly nodded, refraining from making eye contact. Potentially. I am apprehensive. No additional comments were required. There is no satisfactory resolution to the unresolved issues. She directed her gaze towards the entrance. Before returning my gaze, he briefly hesitated. I am grateful, I assume, for refraining from exacerbating the situation. Upon the door closing behind her, I discovered that I was alone with my thoughts. The unit appeared more desolate than it had ever been. Nevertheless, the silence was characterized by an uncommon sense of conclusiveness. I was unable to influence the subsequent events. However, I was unable to shake the idea that this evening had a profound impact. For the two of us, like what you heard, there's plenty more heartbreak and secrets to come. Hit like, subscribe, and stay curious with Tangled Truths.